finally, Jesus. So many years because of the pandemic.
Yeah. But and then to go back to your question, I can't remember what the other thing that Piotr said to me.
Wow, that's a nice callback here.
Yeah.
But what were you referring to George Carlin in general, or like the beat with God, or?
Just about blindly. George Carlin was one of his point of views was like, if you can't see what a racket that religion is, there's a guy in the sky who's watching everything you do. Look it up. Just put that in. You'll see.
Yeah, but he loves you.
You're gonna burn in hell, but he loves you.
Mm-hmm. When I was in Chicago, I was walking around these thrift stores, and I got two vinyl
Record.
Yeah, with vinyl of George Carlin.
Really?
Yeah, for like $5.
Was one of them a Blue Album, Class Clown, and he has his finger up his nose? That was my first George Carlin album.
No way.
Yeah.
I would probably put it on the wall just for now.
I mean, that was my first George Carlin album.
But did you have it on a vinyl?
I did.
Really?
Honey, that's all we had back when I was
I know, that's why I brought, me, a millennial, I brought it as a kind of a souvenir. I'm not gonna, I will listen to it, but it's more like, just a piece of the past, and like that you cannot get it anywhere in Europe, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's all digital now. And that's all, what, you put it in your suitcase and just brought it back?
Well, I had it in my hands because I bought a whole shelf of books that are here now. Screenwritings, some conversations with comedians, some they're like, the George Carlin is in Polish.
Amy Poehler's book.
Amy Poehler's, Chasey Handler, Catherine Ryan, Ellie Wong, So the Ladies of the Stand-Up,
Love
Eliza
it.
Schlesinger. Tina Fey I had before, and Amy Poehler. But I got the UCB. We went to Harvard in Boston, and there was we found, I think, the UCB in the used books part of the bookstore in Harvard. I was just mostly getting the used ones.
Yeah.
That's why it was funny that I got Mick Napier's book for $1 in a gay thrift store with clothes, and there were some books.
At Harvard or in Chicago?
No, that was in Chicago.
I think he would be thrilled to know that. Yeah, I'll let
tell him that.
And this, and I asked you were in Boys Town, right?
Yes, it was in Boys Town.
And you went to Brown Elephant.
That might have been the one.
I think it's still open.
I think that was the one where I got the book.
For $1.
Yeah, it's there because I had this. Yeah, improvise because I had the thin version. Some time ago, years ago, from Amazon.
I think you have the new edition.
And I have the new edition. I got it for $1.
Amazing.
And before that, I bought from Amazon, brought from fucking, I don't know, States or Great Britain.
For $20.
Probably. And now I was like, I will get some gay clothes and Mick Napier for $1. I love that.
I'm pretty sure
and because
he
of that,
would be
I had
thrilled.
to, please tell him that. And because of that, I had to take the vinyls in my hands because I had so many books that my luggage was so overweight that it was ridiculous. I put it on the weight when I go back because I was supposed to have 8 kilograms and I had 30, more or less, Oh my God. And I was sweating so much with it on my back. And I was just pretending to be cool. And I had to put my shoes, because I had a second pair of shoes because it was winter, into my jacket.
What?
Because I had nowhere to put them. God. I am so ridiculous because I didn't have a big luggage with me. I just had carry-on because I thought, what? I'm not gonna do any, big shopping in States. And then these fucking thrift stores with books just killed me. And then the vinyls of George Carlin, I was like, I'm not gonna put it in anything because I will destroy that. So I had with me, and I was the camel. I had everything on me. This is ridiculous. I was ashamed because it was,
no, you're a millennial. That's, I dated one millennial in my life for 2 years.
Yes.
And it was great. But it's like, to keep up with her, holy shit. You talk about ADHD and just, and the breakup was an insane, crazy trauma as well. But I mean, she was just go, 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 go. She described herself as a show pony.
Show
Like
pony?
a show pony, like, with spangles and glitter and like, I mean, she was the show.
Oh,
Like
oh.
wherever she went,
I'm not surprised.
she
Yeah.
was and
And she was a Scorpio or Libra?
Polish Mexican.
Oh, that one.
Polish
So she was
Mexican.
Scorpio.
Yeah,
Or
no,
Libra.
no, she was
No.
not a Scorpio. She was not a Libra.
What?
No.
You went out of your pattern?
Yeah, I dated a millennial because I'm like, well, this has to be different.
Of course.
Yeah. And for the most part, it was great. And just like when it turned bad, it was obvious, like, oh no, this isn't it. And yeah, I mean, I've got nothing bad to say about her. It's just the time was up, and
Sure.
it was, I mean, I learned, but I mean, she even had like a bad ankle, and she could fucking dance for like, she gave zero shits about anything.
Well, but our generation has been traumatized. I saw a quote that quite summarized it, that when we were kids, we saw, even here in Poland, we, like everywhere in the world, obviously, we watched 9/11 on live TV, and then it just got worse since then. Everything in the world.
How old were you for 9/11?
Oh, which
You were born in what year?
87.
You were 14.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I came back from school and we were just sitting and watching it on TV,
That's crazy.
as a 14-year-old.
This is America. What the fuck is going? Wow.
Yeah, and then
Did it make any sense to you, or?
it was, well, the one thing was that my aunt and her partner, they were living in New York that time.
Wow.
So it was a bit stressful.
Yeah.
Because we knew that the uncle had physiotherapy downtown office, I guess. So it was like, oh shit, are they okay? Even in Poland, sitting here in Gdynia.
Yeah, it's that's
And just
crazy.
and I watched live the tower collapse.
Yeah, me too. It was
And I was 14, and it was,
it was surreal. I mean,
Yes.
I was. Do you know who Howard Stern is?
Yes.
So I was listening to Howard Stern, and the first tower had just been hit, and they hadn't said anything on Howard Stern yet. And then I got a text message, I think, from somebody, and they're like, turn on the TV. And then as I was turning on the TV, Howard Stern said, he acknowledged it fairly at the same time. And then Howard Stern says, I'll bet this is bin Laden. I mean, if it's a plane, it's bin Laden. Who the fuck knows? He was like, who the fuck knows? And then, whatever amount of time left, I was sitting there watching the TV, and the second plane flies into the building.
Yeah, I saw that too.
And I had kind of Howard Stern low, and I had the TV up high, but then the TV people were such fucking morons. We got nothing to report. We're not sure. It's like, there's a plane just hit the building. We're not sure what just happened. There was an explosion. It appeared that maybe a plane, and this is television. So I just turned them down, and I listened to Howard Stern the whole day.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, this is fucking bin Laden. I guarantee you it's bin Laden. And it was, I'll never forget that day. And I was just like, I was in shock, and I was fascinated. And in a way, bin Laden's responsible for what's in the United States right now, because bin Laden made Donald Trump. And bin Laden activated the fake evangelical Christians in the United States to form the Christian Taliban, which they don't, comedians call them that.
Yeah.
But it's just like, that's the craziness of these religions. Just like fucking Netanyahu, it's all these crazy people in the Abrahamic triumvirate who was like, it's all about war and destruction, and, you better believe the way we believe, as an excuse to be fucking mafia people.
Yeah. Well, it's...
Have a nice night, everybody.
Comedy podcast.
I think it's, I think in the times we're in, with the bullshit in Ukraine and the bullshit in Israel and Palestine, and just people are activated into being reactionary without thinking, and no critical reasoning has gone out of the way. Love and compassion and trust has gone out of the way. And I think it's going to come back. And hopefully we'll have our first woman president come November of the United States.
I hope you're right. Yes.
But even just like sitting here with you, like we're doing the work, even when we're relaxing.
We have a free date for relax today, so we are recording a podcast.
Yeah, because we're not working. Because
we're not. This is not. We are not earning any money.
Nope,
okay.
We're not
so
earning money.
No.
We're not working. We're not.
No. It's just hobby.
We're creating content that is just.
We would be talking anyway.
Yep.
So.
We just turned microphones on, but thank you for having me on.
Oh, that's my pleasure.
And for the wine that we're drinking.
Oh yes, and tell me.
Yes.
Well, but did the oh wow, my brain is still post festival, but is and English also. But it got better than yesterday. My English loaded a little, charged a little.
After the festival,
I say.
You said you ran out of English.
Yeah, expired.
Yep,
in
that's
the
right.
end, in the end of the festival, international festival, just my English expires. And especially if I, for example, text something on my phone and speak, then I switch to Polish unconsciously sometimes.
Yes.
But if you remember, because that's interesting. Well, I was 14, but you were doing improv back then.
Yep.
So did the 9/11 influence?
Yeah, 9/11 happened. I think we had just begun doing Bassprov. So Mark Sutton and I, who has all the great quotes, I think we workshopped it in 1999, like 2000, and I think we debuted it at Chicago Improv Festival in 2001. It might be 2000, I can't remember, which would have been spring. So a couple months before 9/11, or a year and a couple months before that. And for me, I was... In the 48 hours after 9/11, most Americans, even some New Yorkers, the New Yorkers I knew for sure, some were traumatized, but the first reaction of America was not fear. It was just fucking anger. And who the fuck did this? And like, oh yeah, really? There was no fearful bullshit that the media painted. The media painted everybody into this fucking nervous breakdown corner. And it was not that. There were people for sure in New York City I know that were traumatized, that moved out of New York City. I know a woman who was an improviser, and her birthday is September 10th.
Oh. And
she was a server at a restaurant on top of one of the World Trade Centers. And she got fucked up on her birthday, shit-faced drunk, was hungover and called into work on 9/11 that she couldn't go to work because she was sick.
She's one of them.
And fucking the planes hit, and she left there, moved to Texas, and became a folk singer.
Good for her.
Good for her.
Good for her.
And it's like, I mean, can you imagine?
No.
And even, and I contract to a number of different corporate training companies, and one of them is like leadership and like storytelling for leaders and stuff. And so for me, I think the impact was maybe 3 years later. And yeah, I wanted to get back and doing shows to counter the media's narrative that we're all ready to have a nervous breakdown. Because they were hiding the fact, like, fuck these people, because they didn't want a bunch of white people, being Muslim racists on TV.
Sure.
When it's like, point your camera in New York after 9/11, there was just like a lot of Islamophobia and, all of that. And, but I wanted to speak the fucking outrage, and I wanted to make the prediction. I'm like, here you go. All the bored militia white Christians are going to like activate their shit. And when George Bush stepped on top of the pile and said, we're going to get these, besides the point, 3 years after, like around 2004, I'm in the financial district, and they're still building back. And I went to the pile at the end of October. So like 6 weeks after 9/11.
6 weeks after?
Yeah, 6 weeks after I went down there. Because I just had to fucking see. I did some stuff at UCB. I trained, and I went down, and you could smell like an electrical fire, and it was still smoldering. Mm-hmm. And I had to see for myself. Yes. I'm like, man, those fucking guys did it. And part of me was just like, I admired the engineering of the operation to do this. It's just like, because I'm not an American that thinks we're all powerful, untouchable, whatever. It's like, all right, these fuckers got it done.
Yeah.
And the world, we must always remember always that part of the truth of the world is it's fucking terrible. It will never not be partly terrible.
Yes.
Fucking terrible. And humans are animals that are awful. Power seeking, whatever. Anyway.
Yes. Comedy podcast. Woo!
Comedy podcast. I'm teaching. Actually, this story will tie into something that you said before.
Okay, please.
I'm teaching in the financial district. I think I might have been teaching people from American Express. And the goal was to share a personal story as a leader that could close the gap of understanding between you and the people that would report to you, that would help them understand what your leadership philosophy was. And I heard stories that day from people that were there on 9/11. And the theme was the people that are the bullshit leaders who had corner offices and like a leader word on their door and on their desk. A lot of them were, it's fine, get back to work.
Oh, God.
Get back to work. It's just a fire. This is a freak accident. Get your ass back to work. And the real leaders were some middle management, director level, not C-level executives who said, fuck you, let's go. Let's get the fuck out of here. A plane hit this building. We work in the World Trade Center. Fuck you. We're out.
Yeah.
And when these some people were saying, you're gonna pay for this and you're showing bad leadership, then this is New York.
Wow.
Like, this is two different New York point of views with foul language and in your face and all this New York puffy-chested bullshit that's part of what New York's reality is. The real leaders were like, let's go. Fuck this guy. Let's get the fuck out of here. We're taking the week off. And they were called pussies and all the put downs from the toxic masculine chest thump, whatever. And then a lot of those so-called leaders died.
Oh, God.
A lot of the people that said, stay at your desk, stay at your post. This is a military thing. Stay at your post. Don't leave your post. But it's also a military thing, like fall back and nobody left behind. And
wow. Okay.
And so, and I had not been exposed directly to people's stories of that time other than some improvisers who had they couldn't tell any other stories other than they watched from Midtown.
How far is that?
So Midtown would be south of Central Park and south of Times Square. Times Square is like about 40th. And so this would be, and UCB was like around 29th. And so some people would live between like 23rd and 29th, and then all the way downtown would be like 0.
So how far?
So, okay, that would be
You can
3
say.
kilometers.
Oh, great.
3
Thank you.
kilometers. 3, 4, 5 kilometers.
Yeah, just, to have this.
Yeah. But I mean, you can stand on one of the avenues, which runs up and down all the way up, even past Central Park, 150, 8-9 kilometers, and there's the World Trade Center.
Oh, God, yes.
So, and then I forget how soon after, a couple months after 9/11, like when Saturday Night Live came back on.
Oh.
And Lorne Michaels was on, I think even Rudy Giuliani, in his pre-disgraced state. SNL started with Lorne Michaels and Rudy Giuliani and maybe one of the cast members. The joke was Lorne Michaels says to Rudy Giuliani, is it okay for us to be funny now? And then Rudy Giuliani says, at this time, is it okay for us to be funny? And then Rudy Giuliani says, I don't know why you would start now.
Oh, okay.
Which is kind of like New York busting balls, right?
Okay.
And I might have, it's close to that. And so then they got to do SNL got back on the air. And in a way, ironically, at that time, like Israel was the model for if there's a suicide bomber at the shop and they blow up the shop, you clean up the shit, you sweep up the glass, and the shop's open the next day. Mm-hmm. And I just remember that being part of, because it was presumed before they had identified, that these were all, Saudis, not Iraqis, that the proper response, and because the U.S. is, Israel centric, the proper response is like, we got to pretend like we're in Tel Aviv. Yeah, man, there's still, that was the terrorist gold medal.
Yes, but that was the beginning of millennials living current events. That was the first for my generation. Yeah. That was the that's the moth.
Yeah, it's a little moth. He's okay. He thinks I'm Gandalf.
Yeah, yes, you are. Oh, because it's night and they're that's chma in Polish. Yeah, so that was the first once a life. Oh, that was also one of the ways to put it. That millennials been through a dozen once in a lifetime horror events in the world. So we were just like, oh man, what now?
Yeah. So okay, let's list them. Yeah. Y2K. Was Y2K a thing here?
Yes, of course.
And then a year and a half later, 9/11.
9/11, yes.
And then the market crash bubble, whatever, of 2008, 2009.
Exactly, the Big Short film, kind of.
Yes, you watched The Big Short?
Yes.
Have you seen the film, I think it's called 99 Homes?
No.
99 Homes is what happens to, at the same time as The Big Short, what happens to the Florida real estate bubble as a result of everything in The Big Short. And it's got a Chicago actor who we love named Michael Shannon, who plays psycho people. So I'm just going to drop that here. Watch Big Short and then watch 99 Homes. Yeah, and
Ukraine.
Your Trump was president.
Exactly. We had
the last term.
We had 8 years of the right wing here.
And it's like, I remember we all had our lightning bolts for the Polish women. Fuck yeah.
Yes, you had.
Yeah, we did.
That was.
And Putin's last hurrah, this motherfucker.
Yes, there's
and Donald Trump goes to visit King Jong Un.
Yes.
What? And the pandemic.
Let's not forget
COVID. That little thing.
That's my generation. We're just since we were 14. We just switch on the news and it was okay. The awareness of global warming also happened. We're going to shit in general. I know that as George Carlin said, the planet will be fine. We are fucked.
That's right. But that was who was the Norwegian or the Swedish girl? Greta
Gerwig. No, that's the director.
Yeah, that's the Barbie director.
Yes, because we were talking about Barbie a moment ago.
Yeah, ADHD.
Yes, that's ADHD. So the Thunberg. Greta Thunberg,
and Malala, like the young girls, and then the young women of Iran just this past year, rising up.
Yes.
Are you kidding me? You millennials have it the worst.
Every year is once in a lifetime global event, and we're like, oh man, what now?
Oh my God.
It's exactly it. I have my watch, the Garmin watch, and I have see, I don't have it because it's again ADHD. I just forget to charge it, so it's somewhere now.
Oh, no.
But it has this meme kind of dog that's sitting in the burning room and is saying, "It's fine." This is millennials.
Yeah.
Well, that's not a traumatic event, but a change in the world. We grew up without internet and cell phones. And when we were teenagers, we started getting internet and cell phones. So we are also on the edge. What's the word? rewolucja technologiczna, rewolucja... Like,
technical revolution.
Yeah, like there was
technology revolution. Yeah, my daughter's Gen Z.
Yes.
And that's and they're the ones right after millennial, right?
Yes,
There's not one before that?
No. Circa 1996 is the beginning of Gen Z, more or less, depending on the part of the world.
Angie was born in 2006. Mm-hmm. So she's right in the middle.
Yeah, she's...
And then the new ones, yeah, it's like 96 to 2016, right? Maybe? Like if it's
something
roughly
like
20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're very ADHD, but they're also very high empathy.
Yes.
The Gen Z kids are...
I love them. I love my students. Now, because I've been teaching at the university for around 16 years. So I was a student when I started, and now I have students who are born like after 2000s, in 2000s.
Yeah.
And I was just talking at the Yo Festival with someone over coffee. That beautiful example of how it changed is that I was talking to my friend's sister who started studying cultural studies that I studied. So it was like, can you meet her and just have a chat? Mm-hmm. Because she's new in this area. She came here from different part of Poland, etc. And after some time, we talked again. How were the first exams, etc. I was like, is this guy still teaching? And she was like, oh, no, we fired him. I was like, what? What do you mean? And I was like, he was a creep. I know. That's why we were saying that if you're a girl and you're going to have an exam, it's your choice if you're going to have a shirt that shows a bit of you, or you just bottom up, because he's a little bit of a creep. And for us, it was like, so just you should wear something that will make you comfortable. Yeah. And for them, it was obvious that if someone is a creep, you report them and they get fired. Mm-hmm. It was like, what? Mm-hmm. We could have done that? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if we could have, because the system was a bit different for sure.
My daughter is the second woman captain of her robotics team in high school. And her and another woman got rid of one of the advisors for the robotics team for this very thing. And it was just like, that must have been hard. I'm sorry that happened. What are you talking about? He's a creep. Fuck him. Like no trauma. Just like, oh no, exactly. Creep, bye.
And I was too stunned to speak, as internet says.
Yeah.
I was like, really?
Yep.
That's what you...
It's very practical.
Like, we did not know that it's even in our reach.
Yeah.
For them, it's obvious. If in workshop, a guy says something sexist, they are like, this is sexist. Yeah. It's like, what? I don't have to do anything to regulate the group as a teacher.
They're
with them.
Yeah, they get it.
They do it themselves.
Yes. My daughter, like their whole generation thinks I got no problems with pronouns. I don't give a shit.
Exactly.
Like what's your pronoun? My daughter's is like, even the millennials, like everybody's all like, what's the fucking problem with pronouns? Like in her class, there's like non-binary and bisexual and omnisexual and asexual and gray asexual. All the spectrum of everything is, and it's just kind of like, oh, I like denim.
Exactly. There were someone who had said pronouns speaking about themselves.
Yeah.
And the way that the boomer would say, like, wait a minute. And the group, no one said anything. It was obvious. You present yourself like this, so we call you like this.
And then people that might have like an obviously like they dress in an obvious cis manner, like not everybody is forced to say their pronouns. It's just like, if you have pronouns and you say them, anybody can share whatever they want to share, and they just do, so that they can know each other better.
Yeah. It's not that they presenting their pronouns. They just speak about themselves, and you see what's the pronouns.
It's not even an issue. The thing especially with corporate people, that I learned this from my daughter. I adapted this from my daughter, and I'll say, when we're going around, I always do a check-in, and I'll say, just share any three things about yourself that can close the gap of understanding between you and the rest of the class.
Oh, wow.
And
That's a very nice way to put
And
it.
then that way anybody can share whatever 3 things. And it could be like, I'm an only child. My pronouns are she, they, and I'm really into astrology. Or
Yes.
I'm vegan. I love dogs, and I have 2 moms. And so that way everybody just gets to say whatever. They get to choose whatever 3 identifiers they get to choose without it being an insistence out of the new terrified thing.
Yes.
And the goal is, like, why do we do this? We do this so I just figured out the words, to close the gap of understanding.
That is a very nice
Because that's what
way to put it.
I mean, that's what being present is. Like, let's be present. Let's be authentically present. I learned that from this. It's a company called the Ariel Group. I've worked for them for 18 years.
Wow.
And or I contract to them. And it was founded by 2 women who sold the company, Jesus, like maybe 10 or 15 years ago. And it's had its ups and downs, but it's like, once I learned, presence is a thing, and we can all, there's not a set definition on what presence is. There's like a lot of different ideas about how to define it. But at the end of the day, improvisation, especially scenic, it just depends on us just being present with each other.
Yes.
And so if we're going to, we're back to the engineer brain feeling safe and secure.
Yes.
If you're going to feel safe and secure with me on stage, then I need to know what's important to you. Yeah, I know some non-binary people, they don't want to share their fucking pronouns. Not with this group. Like, they're sometimes like, don't make me share my pronouns. Like, no, I'm here. I just started at this company, and it's already given me the creeps, and I'm not sure I'm going to be here in a year. So, yeah.
Yeah, right. I didn't think of it like that.
Yeah.
So now we're doing callbacks because we're shortly wrapping up this free form.
Yes. Callback. All back to the beginning.
Callback. Okay, so I have one more callback.
Here we go.
Is about putting the group together.
Oh, yeah.
So we were talking about, like, you need to know who you are and what you want, but also I think that a lot of people, and it's very common. Oh, my voice just like did this thing again.
Oh, I think I just burped
Post-festival.
while your voice did that thing.
Oh, we're synchronized.
Yeah, we're synchronized.
How cute is
yes,
that?
and group game. Group game.
Oh, organic improv.
Yeah.
So that people sometimes when they get excited, which is beautiful, of course, and we did the same thing, which is just after workshops, just go and put a group together with random people who were in the same class. And sometimes if people don't know who they are and what they want, then and they form a group and they are really dedicated to it, they become one pudding. And they are all the same on stage.
In this one group.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I know what you're referencing, but I want you to finish your thought.
Okay. So
I was like holding on.
yeah. Also, you're holding to the stand so you don't speak to the microphone.
Right.
So there is this thing that sometimes, like, people, again, like in relationships sometimes, that people start being the same person. And with groups, sometimes it's like the same, that they start being the same person and they just try to mesh up like in blender to be like kind of one shake. And then I cannot see, but that's just I know it's just a preference. It's not accusation for the arts. It's just my preference as a person, is that I like seeing people who they are and their characters, their tempers and everything, and how they choose to collaborate, and not they are put in the blender and they have to cut their heads to be the same. Please speak.
I mean, it reminds me of a corporate thing. I think the process is storming, forming, and norming.
Oh, okay.
You heard of this?
No.
I might not have that in the right sequence, but that seems like forming.
Storming for sure is first, right?
I think so. It's like all chaos, and then you
Yes.
form, and then you norm.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yes.
And norm then means, you develop a language that because this group exists, that language continues. So the relationship thing would be like, okay, now you see each other. You socialize together, you've gone on dates, you've slept together, you visit each other's houses. You're not to the point where you're moving in yet, but you've been intimate. And then all of a sudden you get pet names for each other. And if you weren't with that person, maybe it's, honey or babe or chickie or hey boo boo or but it's all of a sudden there's just, you're calling each other names that you only use with each other.
Yes.
That's the relationship version of this improv thing.
Oh.
And so then it might be, we love tag out runs. So we're just going to do like tag out runs or like taking like a La Ronde.
Yes.
And, on acid, like, oh, that's what we do. That's what we love. And it's quick and we can go fast.
Acid, yes.
In Poland, it seems like, what I heard in classes, we're doing games, but then I took so-and-so's slow class.
Oh my God, this is the... don't get me started on this trend.
Yeah, but it's just like, I like playing fast, I like playing slow. And it tends to be like a male, female thing. And I broke that down a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, playing fast is a consequence of other stuff. Playing slow is a consequence of other stuff. If you're playing to play fast or playing to play slow, then what are you doing that's going fast and what are you doing that's going slow? So that whatever it is that you're doing that's going at whatever speed it's going at is also valuable, not because of the speed in which you're playing.
I know. I know.
But short form games, in shows that have short form games, in the United States especially, through comedy sports, part of the dynamic is adding the tension and the pressure to play fast, because laughter is always a result of tension broken. So when you add like fast and play this game fast and you got to play it fast, you're building the tension. And in short form and in game, you can fail and the game still succeeds because failing is one of the consequences of playing fast. And in short form games, if it's an elimination game, then you narrow it down and then, then somebody has to win and you win and yay. And this person was the best at playing this game fast. And so fast is just like putting, sugar in coffee. And slow tends to be, we're not playing, well, I told my students to be aware of two different types of dialogue: circumstances and interpersonal dialogue. Circumstantial dialogue, interpersonal dialogue. And short form in games and playing fast tends to be about circumstances and problems in circumstances. And so can we solve the problem fast? Can we do it in a way that's based on this game? Even if it's like, we'll switch emotions. Playing slow tends to mean, can we play with emotional honesty as if we were creating a play together? And in order to listen in a way, if the tension in games is, the tension for the audience in games is, will you play the game you just described to me? And for bonus laughter, will you do it in a way that surprises me? That's how I describe games. The tension for an audience watching a scene, or if you and I were going to do a one-act play, the tension for them is, do I believe you? And some of the tension, if we say we're going to do a one-act play, then the tension is, will they do a one-act play? And then as we continue to do the one-act play, and we're just acting honestly and responding to each other honestly, because we're introducing honesty as part of our dynamic, then honesty means they see us believing each other. So then do they believe us? So for bonus reaction, which could be laughter, which could also be, oh, or like, oh, or, or no. Do they continue to believe us even when we surprise them? So if we're playing a scene and it's intense and it's a couple and we've been together for a while and we're at the point where we both know that a proposal is going to come, or should we get married? But then one of us delivers a piece of news, I'm dying or whatever. So they know that the tension of this thing is coming, and now a tilt or a turn or a game of the scene, they're all the same, happens. Can we deal with this thing like, I want to marry you, I want us to be together forever, but forever is not going to be long because I'm dying. Mm-hmm. The audience will look at the receiver of that information to see if their response is believable.
Yes. That last thing you said is totally from also because I studied film directing.
Yeah.
And it's totally from film. And I always referred to that in classes when they as I mean people playing, when they drop a bomb and the other person is right away is responding, speaking, blabbing.
That's right.
You know, I don't love you anymore. Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, whoa. We are looking at you. They dropped a bomb on you. They told you something that is very important. I don't love you. I'm gonna die. I love you. Whatever. And then the audience is looking at your reaction.
Yep.
And very often improvisers just tend to respond immediately. And it's like, no, wait.
Yeah, well, you might respond immediately if it's a rom-com because you respond differently in comedy than you do in drama.
Right.
And so you listen differently in comedy than you do in drama. And so, and nothing I teach or say is original. Like at this point, nothing anybody is teaching or saying is original.
No.
Even Del Close said, nothing I teach is original. I might restructure some things and present things that have been thought of before in a unique way.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean I invented anything. And I'm not going to claim anything's original. I just package shit that already exists. We all do.
When I studied photography, one of the teachers said, everything has been invented in art. It's not about finding something new, it's about finding something is yours.
That's it.
And showing your perspective.
That's it.
Yes.
That's it.
And when I sneaked into your workshop, the 30 seconds,
yep,
I just lost the chess game. And
I'm
I came
so sorry you and everybody else got your ass kicked by a chess master.
Yes, he was a chess master and my master, my teacher. So I was glad that I played as long as I did. But then I sneaked in the summary of your workshop and you said something about circumstances.
So the quote that I use, I got from watching an American football game.
Okay.
I know it's really gross.
Wow.
But they were talking about, there was the quarterback in American football is the key person, right? So like in soccer or in actual football, he would be like Messi or Kylian Mbappe or, any of the, I guess they would be forwards, the goal scorers. But they're the person most notable. So there was a quarterback who had been through who had a lot of talent, but had a lot of adversity. And adversity is just another word for circumstances. And this TV reporter, who's this color commentator, who's actually very good and a former player himself, said, circumstances do not define character. Circumstances merely afford character the opportunity to present itself. And so the point in sport was, he's not a quarterback. He's not defined by the difficulties that he's had. He is defined by the way he responds to the difficulties. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, I don't know if he ever won a championship, but it's his spirit and even the way he dealt with the media that told you who he was as a person. So in improv, and especially in comedy, a lot of times a circumstance comes up and then, okay, here's a circumstance. And this is another Mark Sutton quote. So I'll start with a quote. Never in the history of improv or impro has one audience member leaned over to another audience member and said, boy,
I hope they fix the bike.
I sure hope they fix that bike. Nobody gives a shit about the bike.
Yes.
Ironically, in one of the classes that I had this week, one of the activities that was given to people was fixing a bike. It's the first time that's ever happened. And I'm like,
Oh my
let's.
goodness. All my students know this quote, and I always say that you told me that.
I love it. And it's Mark Sutton's quote, but you
Yes.
can say that I say it because I'll always credit him. But it was actually two guys fixing two different bikes, and I was playing music. So it was silent scenes. And then they had to fix the bike, and then they had to acknowledge each other fixing the bikes, and they were each working on two different things. And then, it turned into like, what's the nature? The first things they did was they looked at each other and they admired the work that they were doing. I'm like, there it is. So it's not about fixing the bike. It's about what happens when two guys share admiration.
Yes.
And the bike is the circumstance. Mm-hmm. In comedy, it's the bike is broken. What do you mean the bike is broken? When I loaned you the bike, it was perfectly fine. What did you do? And now, well, what I did was I just wrote it like I would normally write it. Well, where did you go? Well, I went to the store. Well, how did you get to the store? Well, I decided to go through the forest because it is a mountain bike. And when I went through the forest, I went in some problems. And everything I'm just saying is a circumstance.
Yeah.
All of it is a story of circumstances. Went to the bike's broken. What happened to the bike? And so, if this is true, what else is true is starting point for Game of the Scene. Then it's like, I'm writing, I rode through the forest, and then all of a sudden there was like a cliff, not a big cliff, just sort of a little cliff. And I saw some videos of, guys that do these mountain bikes. So I decided to just kind of take it off the cliff, like really gently. And then, I landed on some other rocks, and I thought I heard the bike, puncture, but it didn't. But I swung the bike around. I got away from the rocks, and then there was quicksand. And then, I got out of the quicksand. It started to get, and the chain kind of came off, but I put the chain back on, and it was fine. And I'm like, I'm going to the store. And then I heard cries for help in the water, and there was a child that was drowning in a beautiful, blah, 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 blah. So now it's like, if this is true, what else is true? But it's all, we also call this a shaggy dog story.
Shaggy dog? Why?
A shaggy dog story is, there's old jokes, and I can't remember them, where you tell a whole long fucking story just to get to one stupid punchline.
Okay. I know the joke about the dog and the race like that.
Okay.
Yes.
So in comedy and in old school movies and Marx Brothers even, it's just a whole bunch of circumstances where shit goes wrong. Mm-hmm. And so because people want laughs, because that gets dopamine, a lot of times they will start within the first 30 seconds, they will introduce a problem. And then that problem is sort of hardwired into their brain. To create a problem is hardwired into their brain, because if they create a problem, then they can come up with more funny circumstances. And then UCB teaches, okay, if this is true, what else is true? And so, yes, the proposition is, what's something normal, and then what's the first weird thing? And so some of it is, what is the skill in coming up with the weird thing, the unusual thing? And if the unusual thing is really not that unusual, then probably your shaggy dog story is not going to be that spectacular unless you take it there. Mm-hmm. And so the way that you play, if this is true, what else is true, can be played, as a fucking chess master, and you're just coming up with more incredible shit. Or you can play it with emotional investment, and you're never going to believe it. And it's like, that's it? Well, then how? No. I mean, here's the bad part. And so if you take a pause and go like, yeah, no, but here's really the bad part. And you can play here's really the bad part as the T for the next, if this is true, what else is true. And in the setup, this is really the bad part. You can invest more emotional music into that to give weight to whatever the next thing you come up with is. And then if I happen to teach game of the scene, then I tend to tag it with the idea, like when you get to the end of the run, so then today is the day that is what, which is just kind of like old Second City idea for like, how do we button the sketch? How do we put the end of the button on the sketch? But if you and I are doing a play, I like to think about Chekhov. Anton, he sold the cherry orchard. Or we have to get to Moscow. Then digging into Chekhov more, I found out like, oh, I like his short stories more. And then digging into his life more, like learning that he really came to hate Stanislavski because he thought he was writing comedies, but Stanislavski made them dramas.
Yeah.
Which is like, oh, this battle has been going on for centuries.
Yeah.
But all it takes is just one circumstance. And then once we have a baseline, if the circumstance is we're finally going on a vacation to have some times for ourselves and to just give our relationship the breath it needs to get back to where we were when we started. So if we know we both agree we love each other, but we're both workaholics or whatever.
What? Where did you get that from?
Which is, that's a premise for some rom-coms, right? Let's get away. You're right. We're both busy. We're not like we used to be. Blah, 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 blah. And sometimes it's like, maybe we need to decide if we're going to have a child or not. And so to do that, we need to get away on a vacation. So the rom-com comes from, what is the nature of our relationship? Are we really ready to have parents? Are we really ready to stay together? And then the comedy part of it might be metaphors on the vacation that would be like, well, is this metaphor like a child? We go to this place because we want to see this shrine, because this is why we go to Brazil. We want to see Jesus on a mountain. And we get there and Jesus on a mountain is covered in a giant sheet because he's under construction. And now we don't have our baby that we took this journey for. Now who are we to each other? And who are we to each other? And how did I respond? What is our disappointment? Blah, 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 blah. And now what does that say about us and the reason we took this vacation in the first place? And are we still in love? And if we are, it's a different love. So what is that love? And now let's be honest with each other. And now as long as we're in Brazil and we can't see this thing, well, what else can we do? Let's go see, the soccer museum, the shrine to Pele. Okay, great. And if it's, then now what's the pattern of these things? So ultimately it's, how are we examining each other through the question, does this marriage still work? And then the comedy part of it, the bike, in this case, there's the things in Brazil that are metaphors for the child that might be the comedy premise that we started with. Or neither one of us is happy in our jobs. We think that's what's causing us to question our relationship. So what if we both quit our jobs? And now we get to go, we're taking a month off. We're both going to quit our jobs. Now we go on a vacation to decide what we're going to do with our lives. So we go away to a cabin in the woods with no electricity, and we're just going to live off the land. And no electricity equals, what is life like without employment? And so then how are we together? Is it the jobs? Or like, who are we in the first place that decided we wanted these jobs that we don't really love just because we could make a bunch of money?
And that brings us back to people in improv groups who don't know who they are and why they are together.
We did it! Gosha with the Herald button on the game of the scene of the line of the drama of the... Yes. Yep, that's it. Who are we in the scene?
Yeah.
And so, what have we learned?
Yeah, well,
what have we
I have
learned?
I usually by the end of the talk I ask people what, but I will change the question for you, but I will tell you. I usually ask what is the one advice that you would give to people who wants to start the journey, for example, of comedy or improv. But that's not the question for
I
you.
can answer that one in 5 seconds.
Okay, do.
Do it because it's fun, and don't measure yourself against anybody else along the journey.
Wonderful. So that's the generic question, and now you will get a second one because we just got back from. You already achieved the goal, and you already earned the privilege, you earned the right to rest and relax. That we're gonna do in a minute. But one more thing.
All right.
What is one? What's the one advice that you would give to Polish improvisers after you worked with them for the first time in Poland after the festival of Jo in Toruń?
Well, I mean, contrary to your example of they become the same person, like they're not. And there might be archetypes within Polish improvisers. And I think there's definitely some consistency with Polish men having an Eastern European engineer, slightly guarded thing, but Polish men are more open and emotionally sophisticated. Of the ones that have acting backgrounds, they're more emotionally sophisticated, and they seem a more sophisticated emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm. Probably that's why they went into acting in the first place.
I think so. And even, for sure, there's some analytical engineer, slightly spectrum enhanced taskmaster guys here. But just because they have that type of wiring doesn't mean they can't engage and make critical decisions for emotional issues, because they can. A lot of them can. There's a lot of the Polish male improvisers that are impatient, and they want results fast, and they do like playing fast because they like the adrenaline, like improv as a sport. Yes. Conversely, there's a lot of women here that are also, in general, what I found was a rich emotional intellect here. Mm-hmm. And it's a blessing and a curse. Because people, like, they understand themselves, they're smart, and they don't like losing. Mm-hmm. And so they guard their vulnerability, and they would just rather win. And that's both, like, even in both genders, they would rather win. Here.
School,
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Yeah, the people, they kind of want to come out on top. But there's also, like in soccer, like a draw is also not a loss. Mm. So I think with the emotional intellect, there were some times where, like, the default loss was we find each other. And there was, I forget who the two guys were. There's one guy that had done improv for 18 years.
Which workshop was that?
It was Scene Brain, Game Brain, and I taught at the little theater that wasn't in
18? Pavel?
Maybe it was.
Did he play on stage or not? In the English one?
I can't remember, but he's like kind of like tall, skinny, like guy, angular, Polish, like cheekbones, chin, like he looks like his default is a little bit of a broad stance, and like kind of leaning on one leg. And it might have been.
Did he play in Hotel Superior?
I don't know.
Okay.
And maybe Kubo was the other one. Maybe I can't remember.
Okay.
I could look at my notes, but they'll know who they are. Mm-hmm. But in this class, there is a table, and I play a song, and then two people. It's non-speaking, and the song underscores them, and two people arrive and have breakfast together. And then at the end of the song, I say, what was the relationship of these two people? Who are these two people to each other? Like, what's going on in this scene? Just by the way they behaved and what they ate, how they ate, what they did. And most of the songs were between 6 and 8 minutes long. So these two guys sat down. And the point is, there was like, I guess, 12 people in the class maybe. So there's 10 people in the audience watching. And my point was, as we watch this, each one of us is writing the story with you. And everybody's opinion about what's going on is right. So every story that we saw, there's, including the ones that you saw, they're all right. Mm. And then let's compare what we all saw.
Yeah.
And see what the commonality of this is.
Oh, yeah. I love doing things like this.
And so these two guys sat at the table, and everybody thought they're co-workers or brothers. And one was an older brother and one was a younger brother. And the older brother was kind of like happy and making the best of it. And the younger brother was, just kind of like fucking off and a little insolent and bad behavior and whatever. And so it's the older improviser is playing the one that they were saying were younger brothers. And the one they thought was a younger brother was also eating olives, and he was taking the olives and spinning them in his teeth so he'd eat half the olive and then suck the pit out, put the pit in his hand, eat the other half of the olive, put the pit back in his mouth, and then spit the pit up in the air at the other one, or like at the other one, like this really detailed object work. Mm-hmm. The other one had this sort of like upright and was kind of happy, and then he had a little bowler hat he put on and would like tug on his jacket. And the scene that I saw was the person they thought was the younger one. I'm like, these are two clowns, and the insolent one is the older clown that's getting ready to leave the circus. And the younger clown was going to take his place. And the older clown knew he had to go, but he was dissatisfied or like challenging the younger clown. And it's like there was, with like a minute left in the song, like there was tears in my eyes because they acted in through the integrity of what they had started. There were no jumps, there was no invention. They discovered each other and they just extended how they started, and they were informed by the other one. And what seemed to resonate with that group was there's not just one story. There's not just one thing. And I think part of the problem solving, puzzle working, stereotypical Polish mind is like, what's the one thing? What's the empirical one story we all need to agree is here? Yeah. And that's not true. Mm-hmm. And so they got that words change everything. And in their desire to use words to define what the one thing is, they lose the magic of possibilities. And so if I had to say one piece of advice, is that here in Poland, what I saw was like depth. And I saw a lot of the women had said, yeah, then I did this, and then I took this slow class. And I forget who's teaching the slow class. And fine, there should be a slow class, but it should maybe eventually be called something else.
Yeah. Yes.
And I said, it's like, you're not playing slow to play slow. You're not playing fast to play fast. Yes. You might be for now, but you're going to find out that those are consequences of other stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to like playing slow. And it's okay to like playing fast, but use your nice Polish brains and hearts to see what's behind those. And hopefully I'll be back in a year or two and we'll talk about it
exactly more. And we will see what's the other trend, what changed, what's people gained, what are they referring to now. So now we have to end this episode, because otherwise we will open another drawer. So thank you so much, Joe, because we really deserve now.
Yes.
We recorded like 2.5 hours.
Did we?
Yes, we
Oh
did.
my gosh.
So now we can go on a porch and relax and listen to crickets.
I still have wine left.
Good. That will be useful.
Thank you, Gosia.
So thank you. Thank you.
And thank
Joe.
you, Poland.
Yeah. See you soon.